Love is not declared in grand gestures. It is disciplined into daily actions. Let's be brutally honest here. Words are cheap. Promises, compliments, sweet talk, they're effortless. Any man can say he loves you. Any man can paint pretty pictures of the future. But the truth of a man's heart is not in what he declares. It is in what he does consistently, especially when it costs him something. If you want to know whether a man is truly in love, don't listen. Watch. Watch the patterns, the sacrifices, the instinctive moves he makes when no one is watching. Because when a man loves deeply, 4 unshakable truths reveal themselves. 1. Consistency over words. A man in love does not vanish when it's inconvenient. He doesn't show up only when it benefits him. No, he is steady, reliable, dependable. You can feel the weight of his presence because it doesn't disappear when life gets hard. Consistency is love translated into rhythm. It is his willingness to be there on the ordinary days, not just the special ones. That's when you know it's not a performance, it's devotion. 2. Sacrifice signals depth. Comfort is every man's instinct. But when a man loves you, he will willingly step out of that comfort. He'll trade sleep for your safety, silence for your clarity, ease for your well-being. Sacrifice is not about grand dramatic gestures. It's about the small, often invisible moments where he chooses you over himself, when he gives up something he values, not because he has to, but because he wants to. That's love in its purest form. 3. Protection is instinctive. A man truly in love will guard what matters most, you. This isn't just physical protection. It's emotional, spiritual, psychological. He won't allow the world to diminish you, and he won't allow his own words to wound you carelessly. Love sharpens a man's instincts. He becomes alert to your needs, your struggles, your vulnerabilities. His strength is not shown in how loudly he roars, but in how carefully he shields what he values most, your trust. 4. Vision includes you. Here's the ultimate test. Does his vision of the future have space for you? Not as an accessory, not as a temporary guest, but as a permanent anchor. A man in love does not keep you at the edges of his life. He brings you into the very center of his plans. His ambition no longer belongs to him alone. It expands to carry you with it. His victories become our victories. His path becomes our path. That's not infatuation. That's love deep enough to build with. Closing power. So, how do you know when a man is truly in love? You don't measure it by intensity of words. You measure it by endurance of actions. You don't measure it by how loudly he declares it, but by how quietly he proves it. Love is revealed in consistency, sacrifice, protection, and vision. Everything else, every excuse, every empty promise, every fleeting gesture is noise. If you are with a man who shows you these 4 truths, don't doubt it. If you are with one who doesn't, don't waste another moment pretending words are enough, because real love doesn't beg to be believed. It proves itself again and again and again. That is the dividing line between men who claim to love you and men who truly do. Words are cheap. They are easy to deliver, effortless to speak, and cost nothing to create. Anyone can whisper promises. Anyone can say, I'll always be there. But love is not revealed in declarations. It is revealed in discipline. A man can tell you he loves you, but if his actions collapse under pressure, if his presence disappears when it's inconvenient, then his words are nothing but air. Real love demands consistency, and consistency is what separates temporary attraction from genuine devotion. Consistency is the ultimate truth teller. It's not about one moment of passion, one dramatic gesture, or one emotional high. It is about what a man chooses to do every day, even when the spark feels dim, even when life gets difficult, even when nobody is watching. A man who is consistent will not need to constantly convince you of his love. You will know it because his actions will align with his promises again and again. Think about this. Anyone can shine for a moment. Anyone can show up when it's exciting, when it's easy, when it benefits them. But what happens when it costs them something? What happens when it's inconvenient, when it demands patience, when it requires effort without reward? That is where consistency steps in. A man in love doesn't vanish in silence when life grows heavy. He doesn't alternate between intensity and neglect. His rhythm is steady, reliable, trustworthy. That rhythm is love in motion. Consistency is not glamorous. It doesn't come with fireworks or constant excitement. It is built in the quiet choices, the repeated patterns, the steady hand that doesn't let go. A man who truly loves you will not have to be begged for attention, chased for clarity, or reminded of promises. He will create a foundation so stable that you don't have to question where you stand. He shows up when he says he will. He listens when you speak. He remembers not just your words, but the weight behind them. That is not romance. It is commitment. And here's the truth. Consistency is harder than words. Words can be spoken in seconds, but consistency requires discipline. It requires integrity. It requires a man to align who he is with what he says over and over again. That's why so many fail to live it out. Because consistency is the test of character. It reveals whether his love is rooted in truth or whether it is just decoration, meant to impress in the moment, but unable to withstand time. When a man is truly in love, he does not leave you guessing. He does not create confusion. His actions are predictable in the best way, not boring, but secure. You don't feel the instability of someone who only loves when it's easy. You feel the steady ground of someone who has chosen you and proves it daily. That is what builds trust. That is what creates safety. That is what allows love to grow deeper instead of burning out quickly. So many people get caught in the trap of believing words. They are seduced by intensity, flattered by promises, carried away by temporary passion. But consistency is the measure that outlasts everything else. A man who is truly in love does not need to constantly start over or apologize for neglect. His love is built on the strength of habit. He repeats the right actions until they become part of who he is. That is why you can rely on him. Not just when life is light, but when life is heavy. Consistency also means he doesn't just show up for you when it's convenient. He shows up even when it requires sacrifice. He invests time when he's busy, energy when he's tired, care when it would be easier to withdraw. He does not treat love as seasonal. He does not drift in and out based on his mood. He builds love into his routine, into his choices, into his future. That's when you know it's real. At the end of the day, love without consistency is just a story. It is something said but never proven. Love with consistency is a reality. It's not about perfection. Every man will fail at times. But failure followed by renewed consistency is different from failure followed by abandonment. The one who is truly in love doesn't stop showing up just because he stumbled. He resets, he realigns, he recommits. That is the discipline of love. So if you want to know whether a man is truly in love with you, don't measure his words, measure his consistency. Don't get lost in the beauty of declarations. Pay attention to the rhythm of his actions. Words can make you feel good for a moment. Consistency gives you security for a lifetime. The proof of love is not how loudly it's spoken, but how steadily it's lived. Consistency over words. That is the only truth that stands. It is easy to claim love when it costs nothing. It is simple to speak of devotion when no effort is required. But the moment love begins to demand sacrifice, that is when its depth is revealed. True love is not measured in convenience. It is measured in what a person is willing to give up, endure, or adjust for the sake of the one they cherish. When a man is truly in love, his actions carry the mark of sacrifice. Not grand, dramatic gestures for applause, but the quiet, often unseen choices where he places you above his own comfort, ego, or immediate desire. That is the signal of depth. Love without sacrifice is shallow, a performance that evaporates when life becomes uncomfortable. Anyone can love in the glow of ease, but it is the weight of responsibility and the willingness to carry it that proves whether the heart is genuine. Sacrifice is not just about giving money or time. It is about prioritizing. It is about altering the trajectory of one's life because someone else matters enough to shape decisions. That is the true test of love's sincerity. Think about this. The strongest bonds are not built in moments of celebration, but in the hard, quiet choices. A man may tell you he loves you, but if he is unwilling to sacrifice his pride when he is wrong, unwilling to sacrifice his comfort when you need him, unwilling to sacrifice his habits when they harm the relationship, then those words mean very little. Love without sacrifice is infatuation. Love with sacrifice is devotion. Sacrifice does not always appear heroic. Sometimes it looks like listening when he would rather be silent. Sometimes it looks like protecting your heart even when it costs him the satisfaction of winning an argument. Sometimes it looks like showing up when he is tired, giving attention when he is busy, or putting aside personal pleasures to create security for you. These moments are not glamorous, but they are profound. They reveal a depth of love that words alone cannot express. And here lies the uncomfortable truth. Sacrifice is painful. That's why it's real. To sacrifice means to let go of something valuable, something you would prefer to keep, something that makes life easier. If it doesn't cost, it isn't sacrifice. And that cost is precisely what makes it the ultimate measure of love's depth. A man who sacrifices for you is telling you, without words, that your presence outweighs his comfort, that your well-being matters more than his convenience, that the relationship itself is more important than his individual indulgence. That is love with roots deep enough to endure storms. Sacrifice is also the enemy of selfishness, where selfishness asks, what do I gain? Sacrifice asks, what do I give? A man who loves deeply does not calculate love as a transaction. He does not weigh every act of giving against what he will receive in return. He chooses to sacrifice because his heart compels him to, because love demands it, because depth cannot exist without it. But let's be clear, sacrifice does not mean losing yourself, nor does it mean allowing yourself to be diminished. Real sacrifice is not slavery, it is strength. It is not about erasing who you are. It is about choosing, in freedom, to give for the sake of something greater. A man who sacrifices is not weaker for it. He is stronger because he proves that love has made him capable of going beyond his own selfish limits. When you see sacrifice, you see commitment. You see that his love is not temporary, not shallow, not dependent on easy circumstances. You see that he has tethered himself to something more permanent. Words may fade, feelings may fluctuate, but sacrifice endures because it is carved into action. And here is the paradox. Sacrifice is not only proof of love, it is also the fuel that strengthens it. Every time a man sacrifices, he deepens his bond. Every time he chooses you over comfort, his commitment grows stronger. Sacrifice is both the evidence and the engine of love. Without it, relationships stay on the surface, fragile and temporary. With it, they gain roots that can weather storms, endure pressure, and stand the test of time. So when you ask yourself whether love is real, do not look first at intensity, at passion, or at promises. Look at sacrifice. Look at what he is willing to give up, at what he is willing to change, at what he is willing to endure, not once, but consistently. Because love that costs nothing is worth nothing. Love that sacrifices is priceless. At the end of the day, sacrifice is the signal of depth. It is the silent declaration that love is not just a feeling, but a choice, not just a desire, but a discipline. Anyone can speak, anyone can promise, anyone can say, I love you, but only sacrifice proves it. So remember this, the depth of love is never in the height of words, but in the weight of sacrifice. That is how you know if it's real. When a man is truly in love, he cannot help but protect the one he loves. It is not a performance, not something he has to remind himself to do, not a strategy to impress. It flows from him naturally because his heart will not allow him to do otherwise. Love awakens an instinct, and that instinct is to guard, to shield, to preserve what is precious. You do not have to beg for it, you do not have to demand it, and you certainly do not have to chase it. Real protection is automatic because love makes it instinctive. Protection is not just about standing in front of physical danger, though that is certainly part of it. Protection is far deeper. It is about the way a man chooses his words so they do not wound the one he loves. It is the way he considers her emotions before he makes careless decisions. It is the way he steps into conflict, into difficulty, into burden, not to run away, but to carry the weight with her. A man who is in love will instinctively guard not just your safety, but your dignity, your peace of mind, and your sense of worth. The truth is, anyone can play the role of a lover when life is smooth. Anyone can appear devoted when everything is comfortable. But when storms hit, when challenges rise, when life becomes heavy, that is when the instinct of protection reveals itself. A man in love doesn't disappear into silence when you need his strength. He doesn't ignore your pain because it's inconvenient. He doesn't turn his back when he's required to stand up. He feels your struggle as his own, and without hesitation, his instinct is to shield you from unnecessary harm. Protection also means creating an environment where you can thrive. It is not about control, not about ownership, not about dominance. It is about safety. A man who loves deeply will make sure you never have to question whether you are secure with him. You will not live in fear of betrayal, fear of neglect, or fear of abandonment. His consistency will guard your trust. His loyalty will guard your heart. His integrity will guard the bond between you. That is protection in its highest form, the kind that doesn't just stop threats, but prevents them from taking root in the first place. And here's what makes protection instinctive. It is not forced. He does not have to think twice before stepping in. He doesn't have to debate whether you are worth the effort. His love makes the decision before he does. His body moves before his mind calculates, because love compels action, and that action is to protect. But protection is not always about confrontation. Sometimes it is subtle, quiet, invisible to others. Sometimes it is him taking the burden so you don't have to carry it. Sometimes it is him making sacrifices so you don't feel the weight of pressure. Sometimes it is him controlling his anger so you don't feel unsafe, holding his tongue so your heart is not wounded, or making choices in silence that spare you pain you may never even know about. Those are the hidden forms of protection, the kind that only love can produce. The instinct to protect is a declaration of value. A man protects what he treasures. He shields what he believes is worth preserving. Think about it. No one guards what they do not value. If he protects you, your reputation, your feelings, your trust, it is because he sees you as priceless. His instinct to protect you is the clearest evidence of how much you mean to him. And here's the paradox. Real protection does not make you weaker. It makes you stronger. Because when you are with a man who instinctively protects, you do not have to waste energy on fear, on doubt, or on insecurity. You are freed to grow, to expand, to become more of who you are because you know someone stands with you. Protection is not about dependency. It is about empowerment. It is about building a safe space where you can rise higher without constantly defending yourself. But let's be honest, protection cannot be faked for long. A man may pretend for a time, but when difficulty arises, pretense collapses. True instinct cannot be hidden. If his first response in conflict is to withdraw, if his instinct is to save himself instead of you, then you know the truth. But if his first response, without hesitation, is to shield you, to stand by you, to fight for what matters, then you know his love is real. So how do you know when a man truly loves you? Watch for the instinct of protection. Watch for the way he guards not just your body, but your heart. Watch for the way he carries your trust like something sacred, refusing to let harm touch it. Watch for the way he instinctively steps forward when life tries to push you down, because in the end, protection is not about strength of muscle. It is about strength of devotion. It is not about loud declarations. It is about silent actions. It is not about rehearsed performance. It is about instinct. And love, when it is true, always protects, not because it is demanded, but because it cannot do otherwise. A man can claim to love you, but if his vision for the future does not include you, then his words are nothing but noise. Love is not proven by intensity in the moment. It is proven by the willingness to build a life that carries both people forward. Vision is the compass of a man's soul, the direction his life is moving toward. And when he truly loves, he doesn't imagine that road without you walking it with him. Vision is what separates infatuation from devotion, because infatuation thinks about now, while love always thinks about later. When a man has vision, it shapes every decision he makes. His goals, his discipline, his ambition, all are directed toward a future he wants to create. And if you are not part of that vision, then his love is temporary, no matter how passionate it feels in the present. A man who truly loves will not plan a life where you are left out. He cannot imagine victories he cannot share with you. He cannot envision a future where you are absent, because love is not complete if the one he loves is not at the center of it. This is the test of sincerity. Does he see you as part of his tomorrow, not just his today? A man in love is not satisfied with fleeting moments of affection. He wants permanence. He wants continuity. He wants to know that what he is building will hold both of you. That is why his vision expands when he loves, because love demands room for another person. His career, his home, his dreams, his goals, they stop being his alone. They become ours. Vision is not just talk. Vision is direction, and direction is revealed in choices. A man who includes you in his vision will make decisions with you in mind. He won't just pursue opportunities that benefit him while ignoring their impact on you. He won't live as if his life is separate from yours. His choices will reflect the fact that you are part of the path he is creating. That is how you know you are not a temporary guest. You are a permanent anchor. Think about this. A man may say, I love you, but if every plan he makes excludes you, if every dream he chases leaves you behind, then what he loves is the comfort of your presence, not the commitment of your partnership. Love without vision is shallow. It lives in the thrill of now, but dies when faced with tomorrow. But love with vision is deep. It sustains itself because it always looks ahead, always seeks to build, always ensures that what is created is big enough to hold two lives intertwined. A man's vision reveals his priorities. If his future is filled with ambition but no place for you, then you are not truly part of his heart. But when his ambition naturally makes space for you, when every plan instinctively considers you, then you know his love is not just emotional, it is intentional. He doesn't just want you beside him when things are easy. He wants you beside him when he reaches milestones, when he builds, when he creates, when he leaves a legacy. That is when love becomes more than passion. It becomes partnership. Vision also means he doesn't see you as an accessory to his future. He doesn't imagine himself building everything alone and then simply placing you inside it when convenient. No. When a man loves, his vision is not just about him and what he accomplishes. It is about both of you, growing, shaping, creating something greater than either could alone. He sees victories as shared, struggles as mutual, and success as incomplete unless you are there to witness it. And here is the deeper truth. Vision is what keeps love alive. Passion will fade, excitement will fluctuate, but vision gives love endurance. Because vision creates something worth fighting for, worth building, worth sustaining. Without vision, love drifts. With vision, love endures. So ask yourself this, when he talks about the future, do you hear yourself in it? When he dreams, do you see that he has already carved a place for you? When he plans, is your presence assumed or is it negotiable? Because a man who truly loves does not imagine a future where you are optional. He sees you as non-negotiable. His vision includes you not because he feels pressured, but because he cannot imagine it otherwise. At the end of the day, love without vision is fragile. It may burn brightly, but it burns out quickly. Love with vision, however, builds something that lasts. It's the kind of love that weathers storms, carries burdens, and continues to grow because it is anchored to a future that belongs to both. So remember this. If you want to know whether his love is real, don't just listen to his words in the moment. Look at his vision. Look at the direction of his life. Look at whether you are woven into the fabric of his future, because passion may start a relationship, but vision sustains it. And when a man truly loves, his vision will always include you. Not as an afterthought, not as a possibility, but as the foundation of everything he is building. That is how you know the love is real.